Peace be upon you. My name is Urantia Papers, and I'm starting a series, a podcast, whatever, if you will, just some online information that's going to be quite a few videos because I want to go in depth with some information that I'm been looking forward to sharing for a long time now. Man, I think you'll give it to me. It's a crazy world, ain't it? Like, this shit really is crazy. A lot of people are way off. A lot of people are very selfish. A lot of people are wicked. And it's so much going on in this world right now. I know for a lot of people, man, they don't know what to make of it. Rightfully so. I know the anxiety and the fear and the depression and all that is creeping up on the populace. Excuse me. And it's like, yo, what the fuck we finna do about this? Because if you ask me, it's getting out of hand, and hey man, it's time for the supernatural to reveal itself. Because truth be told, mankind didn't get himself in these problems. There's something greater that's been going on for a long time now, and the information is out there that breaks it completely down. And that's what I'm willing to share. So, a little bit about me. I just want to do this because I'm not going to do this a whole lot, as far as I'm not infusing myself with this information, but I will, just give a little background on how I came across it and just why I've taken to it and why I feel it's so important. About me, man, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. Was raised in the South Side, Washington Road, East Point, College Park. I come from a 2-parent home, good home, really blessed in that regard. I got a twin sister, and it was pretty much just us, raised in the 80s and 90s. And my parents, my mom, she was from up north, moved down here, I'd say in the 70s sometime, and went to graduate school. My dad is an Atlanta native. They met. I think she kind of just dug his demeanor and swag, and he was different with how he thought. Anyway, my mom, as I said, she came down here, went to graduate school. She majored in, got a master's degree in African American studies. She ended up working at a local television station, becoming a producer for a lot of different types of shows for, locally, and was really excelled at that. And subsequently, she went on to become a professor of media at the AU. And so the creativity and the media has always been there. And my father, he was an Atlanta native. He was a little bit older than my mom. And to be honest, he didn't really, I think he just had a hard time trying to make it out here. As a real black man, you know what I mean? It was hard in that regard. Especially, a black man who ain't taking no shit off nobody, which is something I really seen from him and got. But all that to say, he was peculiar in a sense, his interest. Not even peculiar, just, intellectual type of dude. He loved jazz. He was an avid chess player. He had a telescope. He was into astronomy. Some of his favorite shows, I remember I used to, be like, oh man, why are we watching this? Nature shows all the time. And that was me as a kid. As an adult, I love this shit. But and also he was into Star Trek. And I think the idea of what is out there besides this little measly old planet, which it's a fact, man. This planet is a speck in the scheme of things, that really intrigued him. So one day in the 80s, my mom comes across a lady who had a book, and she thought my dad would be interested in this book. My mom, she didn't have no interest in this book. But next thing I know, I'd say in the mid to late 80s, this book is in the house, and it's a thick, hardcover book. And all it said on the front was the Urantia book. Urantia in gold letters. And that was it. Didn't have no author or nothing, on the cover. Again, thick, that onion skin type of paper too. Almost, how many pages is this? Almost a little more than 2,000 pages. But like I say, he becomes really taken by this book. I mean, he's highlighting things, underlining things, got a notepad, taking notes, and this is over years. Now, both of my parents were an avid reader, but I want to say when that came along, he didn't read much else, unless it was, to cross-reference something, or maybe, I wouldn't say he didn't read nothing else, but this was the majority. This took up the majority of his reading time. Hell, it took up the majority of his time. We're gonna be honest. So, as time went on, he would drop things here and there that came from that book on me. He'd say something like, I remember one of the earlier things he would say, it was like, Jesus' name is really Michael. His name is Michael. He is what's known as a creator's son. I'm like, okay. And, it'd be like, well, how you know? Man, that's what Urantia books say. And be like, well, who wrote that? Some celestial beings. Like, how do you know that? How do you believe that? Hey, man, you're going to have to read it for yourself. Okay. So, that never really, for a long time, and this is me probably around the ages of 12, 13, 14. He's dropping these little things on me here and there. And I'm like, I'm full of skepticism, because mind you, I'm coming into my own, and I've been intellectually curious about a lot since I was young myself. And so it's certain things I wasn't really rocking with religion at that time of any sort. I always believed in God. I've never not believed or thought there was a creator, but I'm starting to develop my own little ideas and whatnot. Here nor there, he say other things like, the devil, Satan, and Lucifer are three different personalities. Be like, man, we just go through that whole little thing again. How ran to the book, well, who wrote that? Hey, man. And this went on, you know what I'm saying? And another thing he said was, Adam and Eve weren't the first. People were already here. They came here around 34,000 years ago. They were real, and they did do something that kind of messed up the fate of the planet because they had a mission to come down here. But anyway, just saying they weren't the first. So as you know, time goes on. I'm like, I'm starting to I got my own questions, you know, and I started to get up into these papers a little bit. And I was intrigued. It's saying some shit, you know what I'm saying? Some real profound things, like, wow. And just never heard it said like that. But on top of that, I did still have a little problem, like, well, who wrote this? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I wasn't quite thinking is what it says it is. Like, I went for sure, and what it says is some information pretty much dropped here by some celestial beings. Some spiritual beings are trying to convey a narrative to humans on this planet. But I wasn't really quite there all the way yet. I tried my best to find out how much of this was conveyed and whatnot. Excuse me. So I started try to find out some answers for myself, and what I came to understand is, you know what, oddly enough, you'll never find out how exactly that these papers materialized. You won't. You can speculate, you know what I'm saying, and you can come across some information. There are different little pieces of how this came to be that's out there. I'll give you that. And yes, human beings are involved in its becoming an accessible book and making it, you know, materialize. But when it comes to the information, the actual word, from my understanding, and far as I can tell, that's not no man. It's spoken in a language that man can understand, but man didn't come up with this. And again, you'll never know fully how this came to be. You'll get bits and pieces, but if you're intellectually honest, you'll be like, damn, you know, it's sort of a mystery how this came to be. And if you can deal with that, and again, if you're gonna be intellectually honest, then you're gonna have to deal with what it's saying. And so that's where I'm at with it now. The content itself and the implications thereof, what it's really saying. And bruh, when I tell you what it's saying is the most important message on this planet for now and the foreseeable future, until this information is conveyed on a mass scale and understood. And this is gonna take years and years, hundreds of them probably, to be honest. But is that serious? Is that much of a game changer? And it's saying some shit, man. And ultimately what it's doing is bringing creation into context. It's providing a framework that you can understand that lets you know where you at as a human being on this planet, as well as this planet's relation to this universe. And I'm talking about in a detailed, structured way. We're part of a spiritual government, if you will. And bruh, this little lowly planet is way, way, way down there somewhere. But nonetheless, this exists and we own it. But bro, we belong to almost a practically infinite creation by an infinite creator. And most importantly, what this information, this is what really hit home, what this information is constantly reiterating is that you and I are offsprings of this creator. We're children of God. We're indwelt by this spirit of this creator of all. Yeah. Now, I know that this world finds itself in a state of chaos, and there's reasons for that. And that's what this intro is going to deal with. I'm trying to bring back just some bullet points or things that we're going to constantly expound on in the future. But I just want to lay out the general layout right now, where we are as a planet and what the fuck is going on. And this is called the quarantine, the real quarantine. Reason being that this planet has been in quarantine. We're in a spiritual isolation because of some major events that have happened in the spiritual realm that affect the material realm that we indwell. And make no mistake, the spiritual realm is realer than the material realm. That's the substance. This the shadow. This planet is known as Urantia, 606 in the system of Satania. Man, I gotta get these goddamn S's in this dry mouth. I gotta find some combination that work for me, you know what I'm saying? Little mental note, water work, some nice water. This planet is known as 606 in the system of Satania. Satania is one of 1,000 systems that make up the constellation Lanonandek. Lanonandek is one of 10,000 constellations that make up the local universe Nebadon. Nebadon is a local universe created and controlled by a sovereign ruler named Michael. We know him as Jesus because he came to this planet for a particular mission, which I'm going to go into great detail about, which is really what all this is about, because you ain't heard it like this before. Now, Nebadon is one of several thousand local universes that make up the super universe we inhabit, which is called Uversa. Uversa is one of 7 super universes that swing around the Isle of Paradise, where the eternal creator of all inhabits. It's the indwelling place of the creator, who sent out, again, his spirit that indwells us all, and anybody who wants to can follow this spirit all the way back. And that's the ascent right there. You can attach yourself to this spirit and go all the way back to paradise if you so choose. And it take damn near an eternity to do it. But it's eternal progression, eternal ascension, traveling within yourself and creation, progressively elevating in ways that are unimaginable to us right now, to be honest. But I tend to believe it. Yes, I'll be honest with you, this, I guess you would call a leap of faith. I believe what these words are saying. They resonated in such a way and painted such a picture, and I can't find nothing else on this planet that satisfies my intellectual curiosity and my spiritual hunger like this information does. It's that serious. And it ain't like got to be no religion. Man, this is freeing too. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing on me, bro. This ain't no dogma. You know what I'm saying? If you can disprove this, I'm listening. But for now, this some real sturdy ground I'm standing on. That's why I want to share it with you. Now, we got in the quarantine because here's the breakdown, bro. From a spiritual standpoint, from the spiritual governance standpoint, our local universe for now is, it's a big deal. It's kind of all we got to worry about right now. And what happened in our local universe, a rebellion took place. Michael is the sovereign ruler of this local universe, and he obtained full sovereignty after he completed his mission on this planet. But we'll get to that. Anyway, this universe has countless different orders of being, levels of personalities or entities, if you will. We're mortal creatures. We're mortal man. We're way down here. And there are beings that are higher than us. I ain't got no problem with that. Would you have a problem with that? And why? I don't. It makes sense to me. When I look around, it's got to be and more intelligent life out here than this. You know what I mean? And they elaborate. So there's several different orders of being. Now, I told you that this planet this planet known as Urantia is number 606, and that's in the system of Satania, Satania. And Satania was formerly run, it had like a chief executive, so to say. That was his title. His order of being is known as a Lanonandek Son. I know, I get it. But this entity, his name was Lucifer, as we know. We call him Lucifer. And that was the chief executive of this system, Satania. And it was named after his lieutenant, Satan. Satan is the same order of being as Lucifer, a Lanonandek Son. And he was just, again, his lieutenant, his right hand. And they're the chief executive. He was the chief executive of this system, Satania, which inhabits the local universe, Nebadon, which is run by Michael, who has all the authority of the Father vested in him. So, after having been placed in this position for hundreds of thousands of years, Lucifer, somewhere along the line, kind of just started falling in love with himself. He started to develop this vanity and self-love that kind of took over. It took over in so much in the sense that he created a manifesto that was based on the ideas of self-liberty. He created a whole manifesto in the system of Satania, again, which is in our local universe, Nebadon, which Michael rules. And it was a rebellion. It was a manifesto and a declaration of self-liberty. Now, he, being a chief executive, was in charge of a lot at the time. And there was a lot of, in this spiritual hierarchy, he was pretty up there in our local universe, and especially in our system. And a lot of beings, other celestial beings, fell for the propaganda. And essentially a war took place. Now, not in the physical sense as we think of war, but in a deeper sense, because it's a war of ideas. And the implications are eternal life or death, eternally. It's a big deal. Whether you're going to live forever or be gone forever. This is what happened based on his idea of self. Now that trickled down to our planet because Satan, again, Lucifer's lieutenant, came to this planet which at the time, 250,000 years ago is when all this took place. He came to this planet, which at that time was ruled by what's known as a planetary prince. In the spiritual hierarchy, in this spiritual government, there are planetary princes who come to evolutionary planets, and they're like the first representation of divinity for evolving mortals such as ourselves. And so this planet was occupied by a planetary prince who had been here for a whole nother 250,000 years. So the planetary prince known as Caligastia, Prince Caligastia, came to this planet 500,000 years ago, posted up, along with a staff that he brought down with him from up on high, which is another detailed story. We're going to go into more detail about that because the truth is stranger than fiction. But Satan came to this planet, held a conference with Prince Caligastia, who at the time agreed to go along with the Lucifer rebellion. He betrayed this world because there's really no higher trust placed when it comes to, in this spiritual hierarchy, for evolutionary worlds such as ours. A planetary prince is a big deal. You're like the overlord. And you're providing, spiritual guidance to a whole evolving planet. So he betrayed this planet 250,000 years ago, declared himself God of this planet. And this led to this this led to this planet being placed in a quarantine where there's a lot of intercommunication which takes place between planets and the whole spiritual realm that was cut off because the prince went ahead and did what he did. So that's where we at now. We've been in the dark for a long time, even though there have been some things to counteract that. Mainly Michael's bestowal on this planet, which we know him as Jesus. I don't like that term, though, that word, for so many different reasons. From here on out is Michael, or the master.